the 10 most shocking theories of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. In previous videos, we have speculated about different theories that could happen in the next Planet of the Apes movie. From the return of a time-traveling spaceship to the discovery of a city of mutants. In this video, we will be going over the top 10 theories of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. A movie that will change everything. And for more videos of your favorite series and movies, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Welcome to the Oasis Geek. Will Leo Davidson face Proximus Caesar in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? The Planet of the Apes of 2001 showed us the story of Leo Davidson, an astronaut who got trapped on a planet dominated by apes and left us with questions that were never answered. But what would you think if I told you that we could still know what happened to Leo, and that his story could be connected to the villain of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Proximus Caesar? What if the ending we saw in the 2001 movie really connects with the new trilogy? Leo Davidson worked in the U.S. Air Force Space Station Oberon, along with apes trained for space missions. His favorite companion is the chimpanzee Pericles. When a deadly electromagnetic storm approaches the station, Pericles is sent in a small capsule to probe the storm, but disappears as he enters it. Leo takes another capsule to go looking for him. Upon entering the storm, Leo loses contact with the Oberon station, and in the year 5021, he crashes on the planet Ashlar, ruled by humanoid apes who speak English and use horses for transportation, while treating humans as slaves. Leo meets Ari, a chimpanzee who opposes the mistreatment of humans. She buys Leo and another human slave named Dina to work in the house of her father, Senator Sandar. Leo manages to free himself and escapes with other humans, but they are pursued by General Thade and his forces. On their escape, Leo discovers the ruins of what the apes worship as a temple dedicated to their god Simos, but which are actually the remains of the Oberon station, which crashed on the planet thousands of years ago. From the Oberon station's computer records, Leo deduces that the apes on board originally, led by Simos, mutinied after the crash, giving rise to the two species Leo finds on Ashlar: the domineering apes and the enslaved humans. Using the capsule, Leo returns to Earth through the same electromagnetic storm that brought him to Ashlar. But to his surprise, he crashes in a Washington also dominated by evolved apes. With a monument dedicated to General Thade, Leo realizes in horror that somehow the apes have conquered the planet while he was away. Now, how does this story connect to the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? There is something that was not entirely clear in the 2001 movie. And that is, if the movie takes place on a planet other than Earth, why is it that when Leo arrives on Earth the apes have dominated it? There are two possible explanations for this. The first explanation is one that was used until the creation of this theory. According to the story, Leo arrived on that ape planet using a type of black hole, but the planet he arrives on is not Earth. And when Leo returns to Earth, Earth is controlled by apes. This means that the apes from the planet Ashlar somehow managed to time travel to the Earth of humans and conquer it, changing the history of mankind. However, this doesn't make much sense, because it would mean that not only did Ashlar's apes gain access to time travel, but that they returned to Earth. But what if we really misunderstood the story? Or maybe there's a lot more to the story than we thought. In the 2001 movie, we assumed that these were the same apes from the planet Ashlar, because there was a mural where General Thade was. However, for the Thade of the planet Ashlar and Earth to be the same, he must have traveled back in time and achieved conquest in his lifetime, as well as restructuring the ape society to look like the human one. Something doesn't make sense here. Either General Thade accomplished too many things on Earth, or this is not the same character. This is where the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes theory comes in. We know that Leo Davidson was in his own timeline, one that is completely different from the original movies, or the previous Planet of the Apes trilogy. But just because he's in his own timeline, doesn't mean he can't cross over to other timelines. And this is where this theory gets interesting. What if Leo really did arrive in Proximus Caesar's future? Proximus Caesar is the leader of the apes in the kingdom of the planet of the apes. We can see him in the trailer with technology in his hands, wearing a crown, and trying to build his legacy. According to his character synopsis, he wishes to build his empire on the ashes of human civilization. Suppose Proximus Caesar manages to acquire human technology and rebuild civilization, but with apes. We could see a future similar to the one Leo experienced. A world with intelligent apes. If this theory is correct, Leo will arrive in the future of the kingdom of the planet of the apes, after Proximus Caesar rebuilds the civilization, and the name Thade would simply be a coincidence. Now, for Leo to get to the Proximus timeline, he doesn't need this theory to be true. He simply needed to repair his ship, the one we saw that was nearly destroyed at the end of the 2001 movie, and then use it to try to return to his planet. In this way, he could then reach the time of Noah, Raqqa, May, and Proximus Caesar. The actor who played Leo, Mark Wahlberg, has defended the director's vision for this film, and it was mentioned several times that he felt very sorry that the sequel to his film was canceled, so we could still see the return of this astronaut. Seeing Leo Davidson take on Proximus Caesar would certainly be impressive and will surprise many fans. Maybe it's time to merge the timelines and have a shared Planet of the Apes universe, one that, while they wouldn't be able to control time travel or realities at all, could open the door to see different characters interacting with each other. Of course, many fans hate this idea and claim that continuing with time travel will only negatively affect the franchise, as it was what hurt the original films. But I think that the time travel, well worked, could be a good narrative tool to expand this universe. Personally, I know that the 2001 movie is one of the worst Planet of the Apes movies, but the story of Leo Davidson, I think, has a lot of potential, and we can still know a lot more about what happened to him. This question that was left in the Planet of the Apes universe, I think, is one that needs to be answered. And if time travel is added in this new trilogy, I think the best way would be to bring in someone familiar, and no one better than Leo Davidson. An astronaut who already had the experience of being in an ape world. But leave me your opinion in the comments. Do you think there is any kind of validity to these theories, or do you think this will never happen? Do you think we will never know what happened to Leo Davidson in that world? Or do you think they will eventually connect the movies? Mutants created the biggest lie in the Planet of the Apes universe. In the second Planet of the Apes movie, we are shown the society of the mutants. Humans who have spent their days in hiding, in the depths of destroyed cities, worshipping a nuclear bomb. This interesting civilization could be responsible for the creation of Caesar's religion, the ape law we saw in the original films, and who could be the hidden villains in the next trilogy of the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The mutants had motives and means to manipulate the apes and invent a fictitious religion to keep them away from the human ruins. By posing as deities and prophets, they were able to preserve their subway way of life for a long time. Let's talk about what happened in the movie, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. The movie tells the story after the events of the movie Planet of the Apes. Here, the astronaut Taylor and the mutant Nova travel through the desert of the Forbidden Zone, in search of a new life away from Ape City. Suddenly, a fire emerges from the ground and large cracks open up. Confused, Taylor disappears over a cliff in front of Nova's eyes. Brent is the sole survivor of a second spaceship, which crashes in the Forbidden Zone. He realizes he is in the year 3955, but assumes he is on another planet. Brent finds Nova, who carries Taylor's plates, and they travel to Ape City, where Brent is shocked to see the ape civilization. The gorilla, General Ursus, plans to conquer the Forbidden Zone as a food source, but the orangutan Dr. Zaius objects. Brent is wounded by a gorilla soldier, but is helped by chimpanzees Cornelius and Zira. Brent realizes he is on a post-apocalyptic Earth. After escaping into the subway caves of New York, Brent encounters a population of telepathic humans who worship an ancient nuclear bomb. They turn out to be mutant descendants of the survivors of a nuclear holocaust. They use illusions and mind control, but fail to repel the ape invasion led by Ursus. Now, what is the big lie of this universe? To understand what that secret is, we must delve into the religion of the apes and the influence of the mutants on it. The apes' faith revolves around Caesar, the leader who liberated them and is revered as a messianic figure. They consider him a tutelary ancestor and commemorate him in rituals. It incorporates ape law with ethical commandments such as prohibiting violence and human technology, promotes harmony with nature, sees humans as evil beings who caused the destruction of the world. Apes are the righteous ones destined to create a new order. It has concepts about the origin of the cosmos, spirits, and sacred places, such as the tree where Caesar gave his teachings. But the most important dogma in this religion is never to go to the forbidden zone. It is believed to be a radioactive zone. Now, when we see the second Planet of the Apes movie, we realize that the religion the apes follow could be a creation of these mutants. Every time an ape or an outside human approached the forbidden zone, they saw visions generated by the mutants. The most startling vision occurs in the second film, when the ape figure or deity appears before them. But the apes realize it is a big lie. The mutant visions are created to keep people away, and here we understand how this religion originated. At one time in the past, Caesar helped the ape civilization grow, but this story has been used to manipulate the apes themselves, to make them fear the structures of humans and keep them away from the truth. The big truth is that there is nothing magical in the story, and the apes are not the saviors of the planet. We know that it was the mutants who created this religion because their society is based on the worship of the nuclear bomb. Everything in their society involves religious rituals. They could lead the apes through the same visions to create their religion and have these prohibitions. Now, in the original Planet of the Apes timeline, Caesar is the son of two primates who escaped the nuclear end of the mutants. These apes traveled back in time and brought their son Caesar, who would become that messianic figure of the apes. In the new films, Caesar has another origin. He is the result of a scientific experiment. Although these films share different timelines, it seems that certain events will always have to happen. The new film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, shows us the story of Proximus Caesar, an ape who tries to find human technology to use in his society. He wants to create his empire with the ashes of human civilization. It could be the perfect time to introduce mutants in this area. It would be interesting in the new trilogy to show us this group of people who escape to the destroyed cities of the humans and find a nuclear bomb, which will become the end of that world. But who might those humans be who will find the nuclear bomb? In the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, humans no longer speak and are extremely savage. But there are still intelligent humans who speak in this universe. I'm talking about the astronauts. In the last trilogy, it is mentioned that there was a mission of astronauts on Mars. And as we know, time travel and astronauts is something that is repeated in all the Planet of the Apes movies. These astronauts could arrive at this time and realize that the world is being controlled by apes. These astronauts could find signs of technology in this destroyed city and find the nuclear bomb. Then these astronaut scientists could stay and live in this place and become the mutants we saw in the past movies, or at least a similar version of them. I think there are ways in which the same events can be repeated, without having to affect history or repeat the mistakes of the past that led to the failure of the franchise. Now we have a new opportunity to introduce the Forbidden Zone, mutants, and time travel. To understand how exactly humans could become temporal villains in this cinematic universe, we must first remember that the theme of time travel has always been an integral part of the mythology of these films. Since the original 1968 film, the franchise has been built on the premise that time is not linear, and there are shortcuts and temporal paradoxes. This is demonstrated by the astronaut Taylor, when he falls into a future dominated by hyper-intelligent apes, and later by Cornelius and Zira, when they return to the past and alter the events that would lead to the emergence of that world. However, in the last three films, although interstellar travel is mentioned, and its ability to transcend time is hinted at, time jumps take a back seat. The plot focuses more on linear events, leading to the human collapse and subsequent rise of the apes. Even so, in this trilogy, the ship Icarus is introduced, the one that originally transported Taylor to the future, dominated by apes. This intentional reference opens the door to return to this classic theme in future films, as we have mentioned in other videos. In Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, we will see a young chimpanzee named Noah, who will try to stop the plans of Proximus, an ape leader who wants to use ancient human knowledge and technology to dominate and subjugate the other ape species under his rule. It is very likely that the spaceship Icarus, the one that in the past transported astronaut Taylor to a future ruled by apes, will also play an important role in this new installment. But I don't think they will repeat the same story we originally saw with Taylor. This theory proposes that we will see the return of the Icarus spaceship to Earth in this new saga, possibly at the end of the movie. Then, in a next movie, we could see how the Icarus spaceship is used, in the same way that Cornelius and Zira used it, returning to the past to warn about what happened. This would give them immense power, even allowing them to change past events. In that case, Caesar would become the humans' #1 target. After all, it was himself who unleashed the Ape Rebellion, which decimated human civilization. Humans could try to go back in time to prevent Caesar from ever leading the apes. One possible plot would be that the humans manage to rebuild and activate the Icarus and use it to explore the wormholes that allow time jumps. Eventually, they will master this technology enough to send an expedition to the past with the mission to kill Caesar when he is still a baby chimpanzee. Or perhaps the mission is to convince Will not to do his experiments and thus prevent the creation of the virus as such. But another interesting option would be to try to convince the young scientist, Will Rodman, to abandon his experiments with ALZ-112, the retrovirus he created to cure Alzheimer's disease, but which also exponentially increased the intelligence of apes. Will could be intercepted by a group of humans arriving from the ape-dominated future, who warn him of the catastrophic consequences of his studies with ALZ-112. They would reveal to him, for example, that if he goes ahead with his experiments, a worldwide pandemic will be unleashed that will wipe out humanity. Obviously, at first Will would not believe them, but these humans from the future could prove to him that what they say is true by sharing information that only Will knows at the time, perhaps predicting the future, or taking him briefly into the dystopian future to see it with his own eyes. This would be an interesting theme, to see Will having to choose between continuing his experiments to save his father or choosing to save humanity. But while this theory is interesting, honestly, my opinion is that the time travel theme will be shown in a different way. Although the original films appear to have their own separate timeline, I believe that there are certain elements that should not be repeated, and that giving humans the ability to control time in this universe could lead to losing the essence of these films. I think it is very likely we will see Icarus in the next movies, and we will be shown time travel as well. But I don't think humans will get to control this travel. I think it will be shown how the Icarus spaceship falls back into this world, and possibly, the next movie after Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes will be one that pits these humans against the apes. Although I believe that time travel is necessary for the next stories, I think that care should be taken, because movies like those of Marvel didn't know how to control time travel well, and their stories on many occasions ended up not making sense. So if this element is brought back in the Planet of the Apes franchise, great care must be taken in how it is incorporated, establishing clear rules about its effects so that it does not lend itself to plot inconsistencies or illogical plots. It is a difficult resource to manage, but very powerful if done well. It allows the exploration of paradoxes, alternate realities, different outcomes, as well as the incorporation of classic characters interacting with new ones. Well implemented, time travel can refresh a series and open up the possibility of other stories. Poorly implemented, they can ruin even the best story, drowning it in contradictions. If anything defines the Planet of the Apes universe, it's the fall of humanity and time travel. Although the latter has been left aside on the last trilogy. However, everything points to the fact that very soon, we will have the return of these elements in the story. To understand how Icarus will travel in time in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, we must start at the beginning. Even before this ship was called Icarus, and its origin was as mysterious as this universe. Liberty One is a spaceship created by the American National Space Administration, or ANSA for short, which is a division of NASA, to keep politics out of the space program. Although it was most likely created to test time travel, this was never publicly accepted. On January 14, 1972, it was launched into space, but scientists at the time did not call it Liberty One. This spaceship was known by its pseudonym Icarus. Icarus is a character from Greek mythology. He and his father Daedalus were trapped on an island. Daedalus was a very skilled inventor. He built 2 pairs of wings out of feathers and wax so that they could both fly away. Before flying, Daedalus warned Icarus not to fly too low, because the humidity of the sea could damage the wings, nor too high, because the heat of the sun could melt the wax. But Icarus, excited by the experience of flying, paid no heed and soared too high. Near the sun, the wax on his wings melted, and he fell into the sea, where he drowned. The story of Icarus is often seen as a lesson in arrogance and overconfidence. But what does this have to do with Liberty One? The reason is mainly symbolic. In mythology, Icarus defied boundaries and paid the price for his hubris. Similarly, the Icarus spaceship in Planet of the Apes represents the human ambition to explore beyond known limits, leading to unexpected consequences such as time travel and landing on a planet full of apes. But it is no coincidence that the Icarus had this technology, as the man in charge of the project had already theorized that the Icarus could travel in time and possibly created it initially with this intention. Now let's talk about Dr. Otto Haslien, one of the creators of this ship. He was a scientist working on the space program and conducted several experiments to confirm his time travel hypotheses. He is a key figure in the Planet of the Apes saga, especially in Escape from the Planet of the Apes, where he appears to become the antagonist. But some might consider him a hero for trying to prevent the downfall of humanity. His work centers on time travel conceptualized through the Haslien time curve, a form of time dilation which allows astronauts to travel to distant worlds. It was Taylor, Dodge, Landon, Stewart, Maddox, and Brent who reached the ape world through this time curve. Haslien, working at ANSA, organized several missions including Liberty One to test his theory of time travel. Later, he supervised the Church Door project, related to a missile capable of destroying planets. A project we will talk about later. Now, perhaps one of the most interesting elements of the construction of the Icarus is that it is believed part of its engine was the result of reverse engineering in a classified project. Or at least, this is what different sources close to the story claim. Possibly, humans in the past found another ship that traveled in time and created the Icarus from these discoveries, thus being a time loop where the Icarus is born thanks to other ships that were created from the Icarus and that possibly traveled to the past. But there is not much information on this in the movies. After the release of the Caesar trilogy, many fans of the Planet of the Apes universe expected to see the Icarus, or at least some reference to this ship, since if it is so important, it was supposed to be included as well. However, other people claimed that we would never see the Icarus, since this new trilogy would have no time travel. However, everything changed after the release of Rise of the Planet of the Apes in 2011, which incorporated Icarus into the mythology of this new trilogy, showing television images of a ship called Icarus taking off with its crew on board. Although no crew names are mentioned on screen, the script links Icarus to the Liberty One, led by Commander Colonel George Taylor. Director Rupert Wyatt confirmed this connection. It is later mentioned that this spaceship disappeared, and nothing more was known about it. Some people think it was just a cameo or an homage to the previous movies, but it is no coincidence that we see Icarus being mentioned in the trilogy, and that the new Planet of the Apes movie is so similar to the originals. In previous videos, we talked about the theory that May is an astronaut from Icarus, and that she was kidnapped by Proximus Caesar to take her back to Icarus, as it is a technology that could help Proximus to conquer the planet in its entirety. If May does not turn out to be an astronaut, it is very likely that at the end of this movie, we will see the return of Icarus to planet Earth. And it will be the beginning of a new trilogy of astronauts in a world full of apes. If the Icarus returns to a world where apes are the dominant species, how would the astronauts react to discover that the Earth they knew has changed drastically? Could the astronauts be the bearers of knowledge or a cure that alters the course of the war between apes and humans? The Icarus could play a key role in the outcome of the fight against Proximus Caesar. Only time will tell how this ship will influence the development of the plot. What is more intriguing is the possibility that the Icarus could serve as a link between the old and new films, suggesting that it can travel not only in time, but also between different realities, creating new timelines. This makes it an element of great power within the Planet of the Apes universe, perhaps the most powerful technology of all. Theories about the true identity of the human have begun to emerge in different internet portals like Reddit, or even in the same trailer of the movie. But these theories seem to gain more strength after a discovery in the trailer. Different Reddit users showed one of the images from the trailer and clarified it. In the image, we can see Noah climbing up a cliff with May on his back. May is this human we've seen in other images from the movie. But there is something that many have noticed. May's clothing is different from the rest of the humans in the trailer. She appears to be wearing a blue shirt as a type of suit. One of the Reddit users has compared her clothes with those of the astronauts in the movie The Martian, where we can see similar clothing to what May is wearing. Now, with these revelations, we have a clear vision of what the movie will be about, and clearly, this changes our theories quite a bit of what we might see at the end of the movie. But how does May fall into this story if she really is an astronaut? If we presuppose that May is indeed an astronaut, we can make sense of many scenes and images that were revealed. But to understand what her role is, we must first understand the role of Noah and Proximus Caesar. Proximus Caesar is the leader of a group of apes. Proximus is looking for human technology that will allow him to conquer the world and create an empire on the ashes of humanity. But we don't know what exactly drives Proximus Caesar to seek this technology. Although, of course, if May is really an astronaut, we already have a pretty clear theory of what's going on. It is possible that Proximus Caesar begins as a simple leader of the apes, who sees a sign in the sky, which leads him to the destroyed city of the humans, in search of that lost technology. This signal that Proximus Caesar would see could be the arrival of the Icarus spaceship. In newspaper clippings of the past trilogy, We saw how it was mentioned that the Icarus spaceship had disappeared. In the original movies, we saw how the Icarus spaceship arrived with astronaut George Taylor. But this time, the story will take a different turn. It is likely that in this new installment, the Icarus spaceship suffers an accidental arrival on the planet of the Apes, crashing or making a forced landing. Given the violence of the impact, the human crew members are killed or badly injured, with only one survivor. Astronaut May. Wounded but alive, May must then fend for herself on a planet dominated by an ape civilization, with no other humans in sight. Noah is an ape scout, who will possibly find the Icarus spaceship and save May. This is why we see the scene where Noah is climbing off a cliff with May on his back. This could be the first encounter he has with her, as she is still wearing some of her astronaut clothes. Then we have scenes where May is in clothing similar to humans of that era. It is possible that she changes her clothes to camouflage herself, and not attract the attention of Proximus Caesar. But how does Noah know where to look for the Icarus spaceship? In one of the scenes we see Noah looking through a telescope. It is possible that in this place, this is when Noah sees Icarus fall, and runs to this place where May is. May will then explain to him that everything Proximus Caesar says is a lie. According to various news reports, Proximus Caesar has distorted the teachings of the original Caesar, to the point that the apes do not know what happened 300 years ago in the past. This means that the person who will give some clarity on what is going on could be May, and May could be that person who guides Noah to become the hero of the movie. In one of the new images, we can see different soldiers of Proximus Caesar carrying May across a beach. We can also see in the scene of the trailer that Noah is on a cliff from where you can see a beach, and also in another of the images, Noah is seen trapped by a mesh on the ocean, accompanied by Raqqa and possibly May. This leads me to think that Proximus Caesar will take May to the place where the Icarus crashed into the sea, perhaps to force her to give him human technology, which he thinks will give him the power to control everything. This means that the story of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes will not be solely about Noah. And while Noah could be the hero in the story, this human could be central to the plot, being that connection between the past and the future, and explaining to all the apes what humans were really like. I think this theory is very likely and would explain May's character in depth. This means that we would not have George Taylor as an astronaut, and the story would be different than we thought. It would be much more similar to the original Planet of the Apes movie, where a human meets this civilization that has conquered the planet, and the humans are no longer in control. It is also interesting to imagine the reactions May would generate among the apes. Some, like Noah, might empathize and try to help her, seeing her as proof that apes and humans can collaborate. But others would probably see her as a threat, a vestige of a past they fear, or they would want to exploit her technological knowledge for their own purposes, as in the case of Proximus Caesar. This difference of perspectives among the apes themselves could be an element generating internal tensions in their society, and that could provoke a fight between Noah and Proximus Caesar for May's life. No doubt May's character is an interesting one that we hope to learn more about, but I think the theory that she is an astronaut is one of the most likely theories we will see in the movie. Will Raqqa be the lawgiver of the ape law? One of the new characters in the movie Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is Raqqa, an orangutan that could become a main piece of this story. Being one of Noah's friends and one of the wise men in his tribe, he could be the connection between Noah and his past. For some, Raqqa will be a leader. For others, he is the descendant of one of the main characters of Caesar's trilogy, Maurice. First, let's talk about what we know about this character. Raqqa is one of the main character's friends in the movie, and is played by Peter Macon. He is also described as one of the wisest orangutans in his tribe. He is believed to be the one who keeps the stories of the past, and could be connected to Caesar's story, as he could be a descendant of one of his greatest allies, the orangutan Maurice. Maurice is an evolved orangutan, born in 2001 in a circus, before being transferred to a primate shelter. It was here that he met Caesar, a hyper-intelligent chimpanzee. Maurice became Caesar's friend and his trusted advisor during the Ape Rebellion, helping to free his fellow apes from the shelter and establish a new society in the forest. We will be creating videos in the future of this character, as he is one of the few primates who proved to have superior intelligence to all others, before being exposed to the chemical ALZ-113, which endowed the primates with intelligence and caused almost the extinction of mankind. Now there is something very important in Maurice's story that connects it to Raqqa's. Maurice promised to take care of Caesar's son, as well as to teach him and remind him of what happened to his father. We can say that Maurice is the first ape historian, and possibly the foundation of the ape law, for although many of its teachings and rules come from Caesar, it was Maurice who remained as a witness for the next generations. Raqqa and Maurice are both orangutans and are quite similar. In the same way that Caesar and Noah are also very similar physically, it is possible that the tribe where Noah is the original tribe of Maurice and Caesar's son Cornelius. Now, could it be that there are clues pointing that Raqqa is a descendant of Maurice and that he will be the creator of the ape law or the religion of the apes? Surprisingly, we have more clues that Raqqa is precisely the creator of the ape religion than Noah as a descendant of Caesar. During the Planet of the Apes trailer, we can see two elements in Raqqa, which connect him not only to Caesar's story, but to the future of this universe and the original films. First, let's talk about the amulet that Raqqa wears on his chest. This necklace is not just any symbol. It symbolizes the window of the house where Caesar was raised, and which later became a symbol of the apes and their fight against humans. It began as a symbol of hope, and possibly this meaning has been maintained for generations. If the Raqqa tribe is the same as Maurice, it would explain why they still keep this necklace with this symbol, as it could be a reminder of the time when Caesar was still among them. This would also explain why in many scenes in the trailer, and in the recently revealed photographs, we see Raqqa next to Noah. Raqqa is an orangutan and is intelligent, but he is not as skilled as other primates in the tribe. However, it is his story that will make sense to Caesar. It is possible that, if Noah discovers to be a descendant of Caesar, it is Raqqa who will explain it, and that they will find the house or some symbol which connects with the symbol that Raqqa has on his chest. In one of our previous videos we talked about Koro, the elder ape of the tribe, and it is possible that Raqqa is one of his disciples who wishes to become the wise elder of his tribe. However, this is not the biggest discovery of his character. Reddit user Captain Waterpaper found a connection of this character to the original movies. Part of this discovery reads as follows, and I quote, "I turned up the brightness and traced. It's not a perfect tracing, and some of the lines were hard to make out. But here is an approximation of the symbols. Notice the similarities to the symbols worn by the lawgiver statue from the original film. I'll add that, in the original movies, the lawgiver was seen in the 2600s, in between battle and the original. It would make sense for this character to appear in Kingdom since it too is an in-between period. The lawgiver was also an orangutan. This discovery not only confirms that the films are following the path of the original films, but that Raqqa could indeed be that lawgiver that was so much talked about in the original films. It is no coincidence that they bear the same symbols. Now, this leaves several questions on the table. In the original movies, that prophet creator of the ape law was anti-human, or at least that's how we see him in the originals. He was the prophet who forbade the apes from going to the human ruins and called it a forbidden zone. This could also change the perspective of the story a bit. Just as the figure of Caesar is important in the mythology of Planet of the Apes, so is the figure of the lawgiver. This could mean that this orangutan could be much more important in the story than Noah, May, or Proximus Caesar, and could be the person who disproves all the false teachings of Proximus Caesar. But here comes the most interesting part of his story. Maybe Raqqa's future is to become someone much worse than Proximus Caesar. As far as we know, Proximus Caesar is an ape who wants to acquire technology to conquer the other ape tribes and human groups on the planet, and has twisted Caesar's teachings. But if the story of this new movie will lead us to something similar to the original movies, eventually the lawgiver would create a false religion to keep the apes away from technology and human cities. He would make up stories about how their god destroyed the humans, and how they should never go to the Forbidden Zone. If Raqqa really is the lawgiver, he could not only be the one who defeats Proximus Caesar, but he could become the reason why the ape society was kept without technology and afraid of the ruins of humanity. Undoubtedly, Raqqa is one of the most interesting characters, and we wish to know more about him in the future. Is May the first human to speak in 300 years? In previous videos, we have discussed the theory that May is either an astronaut or a mutant, theories that are quite discussed in our tribe. But what if this character is actually human, not just any human, but a descendant of a human saved by Caesar, and who could also be the first human to have the ability to speak in 300 years? Humanity in the Planet of the Apes universe has always been at a disadvantage. The apes have always been victorious, and the planet always ends up destroyed. But perhaps history is about to change. Maybe May will be different. If one character stood out among all the humans we saw in the trailer of the next Planet of the Apes movie, it was May. A character that became the biggest mystery of these previews, and that keeps the fans of this universe theorizing what could be her identity. May is a human, who apparently receives help from Noah and Raqqa. Noah is the new protagonist of the film, possibly a descendant of Caesar, who must carry on Caesar's true legacy. Meanwhile, Raqqa possibly has a connection to Maurice and the ape law. In the trailer, we saw how Noah helps May several times, giving her food and even climbing a cliff with her on his back. In some of the footage released from the new film, we could see a scene where May, Raqqa, and Noah were in what appeared to be a fishing net, and we also saw May alongside Proximus Caesar's men. Proximus Caesar is the leader of a group of apes, from a different tribe than our protagonist, and who will be the villain in the story. This means that May is important to both Noah's tribe and Proximus Caesar's tribe. If May is not an astronaut, then she could be the first human who can talk in 300 years. In the past, because of an experimental drug, the order of society changed. This substance caused a radical change. While apes experienced an impressive increase in intelligence, humans suffered a dramatic decline in their abilities. Unexpectedly and disconcertingly, humans began to lose their ability to speak. Not only that, but they also experienced a deterioration in their cognitive abilities, profoundly affecting the way they interacted with the world and with each other. This loss of verbal communication and cognitive regression brought humanity to a state that could be described as primitive, almost animalistic. They were no longer the rational, eloquent beings that once dominated the planet. Instead, they found themselves reduced to more basic forms of expression and a simplified way of life, far removed from the complexity that once characterized their existence. Humanity, the most advanced species on the planet, was lost to silence, losing not only its voice, but also part of its essence. But some humans remained close to the ape tribes, who were now the dominant species. Now, May could be a human who lived near this ape tribe, where these apes treated humans well. Scenes have been seen in which Proximus Caesar's tribe attacks humans, and the film's director has mentioned that Proximus has misrepresented Caesar's teachings. Maybe Noah's tribe, instead of hunting the humans, they helped them, and they discover that this human can talk. But this would not be just any human. She could be a descendant of Nova. Nova was a human who stayed as part of Caesar's tribe, and it is possible that her descendants also stayed close to this tribe. Perhaps among Caesar's teachings was the idea that humans were allies of the apes and not enemies. That certain people had to be protected, and that a union between the apes had to be maintained. Clearly, these teachings are no longer followed by the side of Proximus Caesar, who see humans more as animals. But of course, more than 300 years have passed since Caesar died, and his teachings are no longer fully remembered. The interesting thing is, we could see descendants of many characters. It has even been theorized that Proximus Caesar could be a descendant of Bad Ape. In a recent interview, the director of this film stated that he took inspiration from Star Wars, a story of adventure and self-discovery. Like Luke Skywalker, Noah discovers his path in this world. And just like in the Star Wars movies, we will see many descendants of the characters from Caesar's trilogy. Now, if May really is the first human to speak in 300 years, she could be the human who makes sense of what happened in the past. We could see May accompany Noah to the ancient human civilization in search of food or technology that could help them. Perhaps this is the same reason why she is imprisoned by the men of Proximus Caesar, as she must take this villain to the ruins of humanity, a place she knows better than anyone else, as she has survived in these places that apes would not dare to visit. So, if this is the case, May's story would also have a rather sad ending. According to several clues we have seen in the trailer, we can think that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes will be a prequel to the original films. Although it may not be a direct prequel, there is enough evidence to think that it is an alternate reality based on the same events. Moments such as the ape conquest of the planet, the Icarus, Caesar, and possibly even the ape lawgiver make it more than evident that these films are connected to a timeline quite similar to the originals. This means we will most likely see that humans will not be in a position of power again. If May is really a talking human, she would be the only one to do so, being destined to lose her life. Apes would be taking more control of the world, and humans would continue to be persecuted and used as an object of experimentation. Personally, while this is a likely theory, it does not explain why May wears more normal human clothing, which could point to the theories of May being an astronaut or mutant being more likely than her being the first human to speak in 300 years. But there could be a possibility that this human learned to speak and dress in the human ruins, and that these clothes were taken from that place. Although, of course, we would be assuming that human clothing has remained in good condition for 300 years. The biggest evidence of mutants is in plain sight in the new trailer of Kingdom of Planet of the Apes. One of the most interesting theories about the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie is the theory that we will see a new version of mutants. That species of humans that lived underground in the movie Beneath the Planet of the Apes. However, there are no direct clues in the trailer, beyond the fact that it takes place in the future, in a place similar to the one we saw in the original movies. But what would you think if I told you there is actually a very big clue in the trailer that we all overlooked? What if the mutants are being attacked by Proximus Caesar's tribe and are sending signals to Noah to rescue them? To understand what that big clue is in the trailer for the upcoming movie, we must begin by explaining who the mutants are and what their supernatural powers are. In the original movies, there is a human civilization in the depths of the earth, which had lived in this place for hundreds of generations. A nuclear apocalypse in the late 1990s gave rise to these mutants. This disaster, the result of nuclear warfare, radically transformed the environment and life on Earth. Those humans who survived, especially those who were exposed to high levels of radiation in atomic bomb bunkers, underwent significant changes. Some died, while others developed physical mutations. These mutations not only altered the physical appearance of the humans, making them different from their original form, but also triggered unique abilities such as telepathy and other forms of mental manipulation. However, these changes came at a high cost in terms of radiation-related health problems. Mutants have created a religion centered around a nuclear bomb, and over time, the true purpose of nuclear bombs was forgotten, and mutants began to see them as instruments of salvation. Mutants inhabit the Forbidden Zone, an area of mountains and ancient cities. This region was declared forbidden by the Apes, who established a religion and a social structure in an attempt to forget human history. The mutants, often dressed in white or light colors and with a calm appearance, are actually a dangerous cult. Now, how does the whole story of the mutants connect with the history of the kingdom of the planet of the apes? In the trailer of this movie, we can see a conversation between Noah and Raqqa. Noah is the protagonist of this new installment, and Raqqa is his friend, a wise orangutan of the tribe. In the trailer, they both say something that most of those who saw the trailer missed, and that is when Noah tells Raqqa that he has been having strange dreams. Raqqa asks him if they are memories, but Noah tells him no, and that he is dreaming about new things. This suggests that Noah is having visions of the future, or at least visions of something that doesn't belong to the usual place where he lives. In the history of the planet of the apes, there are no apes that have developed mental powers, such as having premonitions of the future. But we have seen apes that have had visions about new things in the past. Apes that have had visions, but they have been false. These apes were manipulated by the mutants, and this was not something rare at that time. It was one of the strategies used by mutants to keep the apes away from their subway cities. This means that originally, the visions that the apes had were provoked by the mutant humans. In one of our previous videos, we talked about the theory that the mutants were the ones who created the religion of the apes through visions showing them the lawgiver and reminding them that it was forbidden to go to the Forbidden Zone. It is no coincidence that Noah's friend Raqqa is similar to the lawgiver in the original films. It seems that this clue points directly to the mutants. Well, Noah's vision could be the biggest clue to the mutants in the film, and it's hidden in plain sight. But then, if Noah is really having visions created by the mutants, what would be the intent? There are two possibilities whereby Noah would be having visions of a place of humans or caused by mutants. The first reason is to keep the apes away from the city. Perhaps all generations of apes would have visions of the dangerousness of this place, and could be the reason the apes never made it past that line. But what could then be happening in history? We could witness the creation of the ape religion, encompassing all the rules and laws meant to keep the ape communities united and orderly, but above all, controlled. This would imply that Raqqa could be considered the lawgiver, a mythical character from the original films. Raqqa would be the one who interprets Noah's prophetic visions. Through these interpretations, Raqqa would be in a position to begin to give shape and structure to the ape society, establishing a set of guidelines and principles which would guide his community. This process of forming a religion and legal system would not only strengthen the internal bonds between the apes, but would also mark a crucial point in the development of their civilization, where spirituality and law play fundamental roles in defining their cultural and social identity. In addition to keeping them away from human cities, these laws or religion would be the ones that would confront the ideologies of Proximus Caesar. But another possibility is that the mutants are somehow asking for help, and the way is to send visions to Noah. If indeed the mutants are asking for help from the apes of Noah's tribe, they could be in danger, perhaps from another tribe like Proximus Caesar's. Proximus Caesar will be the villain of the story, and it is told that he will be looking for technology in the city of humans, which means if there are mutant humans, they would be in this place. And now is when this theory becomes even more interesting. If a human stood out in the trailer, it was May, a human of whom we don't really know what her role will be. but there are theories that point to her being a mutant. If indeed May is a mutant who is in danger because of Proximus Caesar's tribe, this could explain why Noah is having visions of the future. And perhaps these theories could come together. If indeed May is a mutant, and Noah is having visions of another place, we could even see mutant civilization. Or visions of the past that the mutants are putting into Noah's mind, so as to control him. There are rumors that in 2 weeks, we will have a trailer focused on May's story. And if the mutant theory is true, this would change everything. According to the synopsis of this movie, Noah is a young ape who tries to help his tribe by exploring resources in the forest where they live. However, Noah is not an ape like any other, and he must discover what his purpose is. He must follow the hero's journey, a path of discovery that will surprise both him and his kind, as Noah is possibly a descendant of the ape that started it all. The biggest clue that Noah is a descendant of Caesar can be found in some marks he bears on his body. The birthmarks that Caesar, his son Cornelius, and his father Alpha also had. It is like a family mark. This gives us the first option, that Noah finds images or drawings of the original Caesar where his mark is shown, and he deduces that he is one of his ancestors. One of our subscribers could have solved this problem by proposing the following theory. In Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Alexander draws Caesar when he is at Rodman's house. In the photo, Noah is looking at a book with 2 other apes. Maybe it's Alexander's drawing book, and he finds Caesar's painting. If you look closely at that scene in Dawn, and the page in the picture with Noah holding the book, it could be. Also, in Dawn, when Maurice found Alexander's drawing book, we saw that he had designed pictures about the pandemic. Maybe this book will find Noah and understand many things. I forgot to say that maybe Alexander kept the photo with Will Rodman and Caesar in Dawn. Blue Eyes look at this photo, and when Caesar woke up, he left the photo next to the table. Some scenes later, we see Alexander, Malcolm, and Ellie sleeping on the floor, and Caesar leaves the sofa to go to his old room. Look at the table next to the sofa. The photo is not there. Maybe Alexander kept the picture. So I have a theory that Noah found the drawing book and the picture with Will Rodman and Caesar. This is a very good theory because the way in which Noah discovers who the original Caesar was could be in a visual way. And this opens the door to many possibilities, not only with Alexander's character, but also with other illustrations or videos that could exist from what happened at that time. At the beginning of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, we saw a summary of what happened to the world. Perhaps there is a similar video that could explain to the apes what happened. However, we have the problem that 300 years have passed, and we don't know how destroyed the images from Caesar's time are. It is possible that certain clues remain, but an image showing Caesar and his mark is somewhat difficult. Another important point is that in the second Caesar movie, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, we can see Maurice teaching the apes the rules, as if he were a teacher. In the original movies, we could see in the statues of the legislator different symbols that we can suppose were from the language developed by the apes. And in a previous video, we talked about how Raqqa also had these symbols on his clothes. This leads us to think that the language system of the apes is much more complex than we might think, and it is possible that they have books with their stories written since the time of Caesar. However, in the new movie trailer, we can see a scene in which Noah is opening a book and appears to be discovering something. If it is not photographs or pictures, as the subscriber suggested, it is likely to be news about what happened at that time. And if Maurice's teachings continued, it is possible that reading is common among apes. This means Noah would only have to discover certain historical books or news to read what really happened. According to the ancient mythology of the Planet of the Apes, God, in his anger against mankind, destroyed civilization and placed apes above men. These anti-human thoughts are what motivate Proxima Caesar. But in Noah's case, it is different. Noah will follow his own path of discovery, and it is possible that this path will lead him to one of the most important places in history, Caesar's house. In Caesar's house, he could see the symbols on the window, which connect with the symbols carried by the tribe, as well as other books or images, which may point to Caesar being in that place. Let's remember also that Will was one of the main scientists of Genesis, and that possibly many books about the virus and what happened must be kept in his house. The way to disprove Proxima Caesar is to get in touch with Caesar's past life, and this will not be an easy job. Now, since Noah doesn't really know what Caesar was like at this time, it is unlikely that he is actively seeking to disprove Proxima Caesar. I think Noah will discover that he is Caesar's descendant in an unexpected way. He will also understand that Caesar grew up alongside humans, and that not all humans are evil. This discovery will lead him to try to change the idea that his tribe has about humans. But just like Caesar, his tribe would not respect him. The only way for Caesar's ideology to come back in front of a tribe is for Noah to become the alpha, that is, to become the leader of his tribe. And being one of Caesar's descendants, it could give him that opportunity. Now, in our previous video, we talked about Noah having prophetic dreams, and we theorized that this could be due to the interaction of the mutants in the story. But could it be that Noah is having dreams of the past about what happened in Caesar's time, and this is how he discovers he is one of his descendants? This would open the door that apes also have supernatural powers. Is May really the last human who speaks? The simian flu caused the downfall of human society in a short time. A species that had become almost godlike, modifying their environment and even other animals, ended up reduced to an almost animal-like state, reverting to its most primitive form, while apes took control of the planet. However, perhaps not all humans became animals, and there are people immune to the virus who are still in hiding. To understand this theory, we must first understand what happened to humanity after the fall of society. Although humanity took thousands of years to grow its society, in a few decades, the collapse of society was total. The spread of the simian flu led to a cataclysmic power shift between the species, giving the apes human intelligence and causing a deadly pandemic among humans, setting the stage for the rise of the apes and the decline of humanity. The simian flu virus spread around the world via international air routes after an infected airport worker transmitted it to travelers. The resulting pandemic decimated the human population in a matter of months, with approximately half of humanity dead within 6 to 8 months. Society collapsed in chaos and unrest. The apes experienced an evolutionary explosion of intelligence at the same time. 10 years later, human civilization had collapsed, with only small groups of immune survivors scattered around the world. Later, the virus mutated into a form, which instead of killing humans, turned them mute and primitive. The fall of humanity to this virus, and the supremacy of another more intelligent species, is the basis of the new film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. But as with any virus, not all humans are affected in the same way. Some are immune, or manage to stay out of harm's way, while the world faced the crisis. For example, very wealthy people built safe havens underground to protect themselves. These subway bunkers, equipped with technology and food reserves, allowed their inhabitants to survive, while chaos reigned on the surface. Meanwhile, others sought safety in subway military installations, which also contained nuclear bombs, taking advantage of the protection and resources these places offered. These bases became small, fortified communities, where life went on, albeit in a very different way from what they knew before. Even in the original movies, Many humans lived underground for hundreds of years without seeing sunlight, but not everyone had access to these sophisticated solutions. Many people chose to retreat to remote areas, far from cities and modern technology. In these places, communities had to learn to live off the land, rediscovering ancestral survival skills and creating new traditions. Over the generations, these communities adapted to a simpler lifestyle, but were not exempt from the challenges presented by the outside world. As the years passed, even the most secure shelters began to face problems. Bunkers and military bases, once seen as foolproof solutions, began to suffer from the wear and tear of time and the scarcity of resources. Isolated communities also faced their own challenges, such as disease and population decline, due to difficult living conditions. This is where this theory becomes interesting. Generally, the reasons for migrating are usually natural disasters or lack of resources for the tribe. It is possible that if May was in a group of humans who were immune to the virus, they had to return to the destroyed cities in search of resources. And it is possible that this group, over time, began to lose resources and community members. This group could even have been attacked by Proximus Caesar. We would not be talking about mutants in a city, but humans who survived, hiding for more than 300 years, who have their customs, and who are as intelligent as the humans of Caesar's time, since they are immune to the simian flu, and their cognitive abilities were not affected. This would also explain why May's clothing resembles what humans normally wore. It is possible that she still has access to clothing production methods, and that much of human culture remains. It is even possible that in future movies, we will see a fairly advanced human city, but away from the apes, the same one that could eventually become mutants. But what if the group where May lived was attacked by Proximus Caesar, and May was the only one to escape? If Noah's group found those clothes with blood on them, was it because they were a trace May left behind when she escaped? What if May is the last of the humans who can talk? This would make May the last hope for humanity to return to normal, and Noah will try to protect her. This idea of May being the last immune human, I think, is very likely, even more so than being an astronaut. And while it's not a popular theory, I think it's where the movie could be heading, as it not only explains why they need May, but also her distinctive clothing. And that would make sense of why Proximus needs May. If indeed Proximus's group did end the lives of May's group, and they still possess technology that can be used, Proximus would need her to teach him how to use it. Perhaps this is where the idea that knowledge is power applies, and perhaps this knowledge is held by May. But what would this technology be that May would have access to? Perhaps a place where only humans can enter. Perhaps the door to a bunker. Or maybe an ancient technology such as Alpha and Omega, the nuclear bomb we saw in the original movies. May could also be the one to explain to Noah what really happened in the world. Perhaps she will lead them to a library, or some place where crucial information about humanity is kept, a last place that protects the history of the world. Here Noah might discover who Caesar was, and his connection to him. I think May's story has a lot of potential, and we look forward to seeing how it will play out in the film. In the last few hours, rumors of a May-focused trailer during the Super Bowl have intensified. Hopefully, if the theory that May is the last human capable of speech turns out to be true, we may see some hint of this in the trailers. Will Proximus Caesar find the nuclear bomb? Proximus Caesar, the intriguing antagonist of the next Planet of the Apes installment, is a primate with an unrelenting ambition to dominate the world using ancient human technology. Recently, a fascinating theory has surfaced on the internet, suggesting that Proximus Caesar's plans go far beyond simply leading the planet. The theory speculates that Proximus Caesar will discover a nuclear bomb, a vestige of the human era, and with it will originate the mutants we know from the classic films of the saga. These mutants, remembered for their extraordinary mental abilities and their underground life, could be the direct result of Proximus's intervention. This idea raises an interesting connection to the original Planet of the Apes story, where the mutants represent a crucial plot twist. If this theory turns out to be true, Proximus Caesar would not only change the power dynamic between apes and humans, but would also be responsible for a radical transformation in human evolution. To understand this theory, we must first know what are the objectives of Proximus Caesar. This theory is born from the idea that Proximus Caesar will travel to the city of humans in search of ancient technology. But he is not looking for just any technology. His search seems to be for a legendary weapon, which according to certain ape legends and myths, would have the power to alter the very course of history. This mythical weapon, whose true nature is unknown to the apes, exerts an almost mystical fascination on Proximus Caesar, fueling his ambitions for greatness. According to the theory, if this legendary weapon turned out to be real, obtaining it could drive Proximus Caesar to unleash a military campaign to subdue and conquer the rest of the ape tribes and herds, in order to set himself up as the undisputed ruler of all the apes under a great empire. But how did Proximus Caesar know about this weapon? It is possible that some apes began to read and discover how in newspapers and books these nuclear weapons were talked about. In the trailer of the new movie, we see scenes where Noah is seen reading a book. This means that the stories of Caesar, as well as those of ancient technologies, which have fed the mind of Proximus Caesar, could come from books. It is even possible that in his delirium of grandeur, Proximus has ambitions to use the power of this mythical weapon to overthrow nature itself and reverse the established order, enslaving the humans who once ruled the planet. Thus, a new era would be born, with a dominant ape civilization, ruled by a supreme leader, Proximus Caesar. What this cruel ape leader probably ignores is that the technology or legend he pursues is nothing more than a weapon of mass destruction created by humans themselves, and that far from giving him the power to create the world at will, it has the power to destroy the entire ape civilization. In the original Planet of the Apes movies, the concept of mutants was already introduced. Humans who, after surviving extinction, took refuge underground with a nuclear arsenal. Due to prolonged exposure to radiation, these humans developed psychic abilities, such as telekinesis and vision projection. Unlike them, the humans still remaining on the surface in the era of Proximus Caesar more closely resemble irrational animals. In the trailer, we see how these humans are similar to those in the original films. In the trailer, we saw how the humans are hunted by the apes, suggesting that they no longer pose a real threat to them. They seem to have become prey, animals without reason, roaming the world in small groups. This reflects a drastic change from the earlier films, where the humans were the dominant species and the apes the oppressed. Now the situation is completely reversed after centuries of ape evolution and human devolution. It is precisely because of this perception of inferiority that Proximus Caesar might feel contempt for the wild humans that still roam the planet. It is even possible that upon encountering technology and the civilization of human origin, this and many apes speculate with theories such as that everything was the creation of superior beings, such as gods or giants, and not of pathetic humans. This is where Proximus Caesar's theory joins another: the arrival of the astronauts. The Icarus is a spaceship that was lost and could reappear at this time, 300 years in the future. The crew members of the Icarus could be intelligent humans, who end up facing Proximus Caesar, fighting over technology, and becoming guardians of nuclear bombs. If we combine these two theories, we get a clear explanation as to why in the first movie, humans and apes lived the way they did. Let's imagine that Proximus Caesar finds what he was looking for, the remains of advanced technology from the past. Among them, he discovers something surprising, a nuclear bomb, just like the ones in the legends. Proximus Caesar doesn't understand how this bomb works, nor its real danger. To him, it seems more like a magical object, or a powerful symbol of ancient times. He believes that with it he can achieve great power for the apes. But everything changes when astronauts from Icarus arrive. They know how dangerous a nuclear bomb is. They know they must not let Proxima Caesar use it because it could cause a terrible disaster. The astronauts decide to confront Proxima Caesar to protect everyone from the danger of the bomb. In this fight, they end up guarding the bomb in a secret and safe place. Over time, the humans who live near the nuclear bomb begin to experience changes. Some acquire special abilities, while others are transformed into mutants. These mutants end up living in the depths of the Earth, as shown in Planet of the Apes. To prevent a similar situation from happening again, Raqqa, the wise and loyal friend of Noah, the protagonist in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, establishes the Apes Law, the same one we heard in the first movies. A kind of religion with rules of coexistence among apes, but that would have a double intention. The purpose of this law is to protect the apes in the future from seeking dangerous powers, such as those sought by Proxima Caesar, and to keep them away from the nuclear bomb. This could be a way to unify the new films with the original Planet of the Apes. While many argue that it is impossible to connect the two film series, recent news reports indicate that there are certain recurring patterns in this universe. There seem to be canonical events that will happen, regardless of the different versions. I think elements such as time travel, the appearance of mutants, and the nuclear bomb are inevitable, and will eventually be integrated into this story. These were the 10 most shocking theories of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Which one do you think has the most relevance? And for more videos of your favorite series and movies, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You are on The Oasis Geek.